Hi, so this is lesson 3, problem set. We start by reading the word problem. For a project in their health class, Jasmine and Brenda recorded the amount of milk they drank every day. Jasmine drank 2 pints of milk each day, and Brenda drank 3 pints of milk each day. Write a ratio of the number of pints of milk Jasmine drank to the number of pints of milk Brenda drank each day. The first one's kind of easy. All we have to do is write a ratio. Remember, when we're writing a ratio, though, we do want to make sure that we put the correct words first. And so in this case, we want to write a ratio of the number of pints of milk Jasmine drank to, and there's our ratio word, to the number of pints of milk Brenda drank. So if we're writing this ratio, the number of milk that that Jasmine drank was 2. Jasmine drank 2. And the number that Brenda drank was 3. So your ratio is 2 to 3. Now looking at B wants us to represent this scenario with tape diagrams. When we talk about a scenario, we're referring to the one right above it, and also to this part. This, as well as this, all make up our scenario. So based on the 2 to 3 ratio that we came up with, that's what we have to do our tape diagram about. Now, if we're going to represent a tape diagram with 2 to 3, our tape diagram should look something like this. Don't forget to make sure you've written your label as well as drawing the tape diagram. And so this represents Jasmine drinking 2 pints of milk to Brenda's 3 pints of milk each day. All right, so let's take this and move on to C. C now says, if 1 pint of milk is equivalent to 2 cups of milk, how many cups of milk did Jasmine and Brenda each drink? And how do you know? Well, to answer this, we're probably going to need to use this tape diagram again. So I'm going to put the tape diagram back in here. Going to draw it down a little bit. And now I'm going to go and remember that if 1 pint of milk is equivalent to 2 cups of milk, how many cups of milk did Jasmine and Brenda each drink? Well, I'm going to underline the how many cups of milk, because that's what we have to find out. And then how do you know? I'm not going to underline that, even though it is a question right now, because I don't want to confuse people. The main question we have to answer is how many cups of milk did Jasmine and Brenda each drink? But to do that, we have to go back and look at if 1 pint of milk is equivalent to 2 cups of milk. So let's remember that our original ratio said that the 2 to 3 represented Jasmine drinking 2 pints. So each one of these squares represents 1 pint. 1 pint, 2 pints. Brenda was 3. 1 pint, 2 pint, 3 pints. So let's start with that. Okay, so I know that this represents 1 pint. And I know that this one represents 1 pint. I know that because it's the same thing, that this one also represents 1 pint. And this one represents 1 pint. It told me that Jasmine drank 2 pints to Brenda's 3 pints. But now we've learned that 1 pint of milk is equivalent to 2 cups of milk, which means 1 pint equals 2 cups. So if this is 1 pint, then now we're going to change it and convert it into 2 cups. And if we do that to this one, these are all the same. We have to convert these as well. Now, that being the case, can we determine how many cups of milk Jasmine and Brenda each drank? Well, if this is 2 cups and this is 2 cups, the new number becomes 4 cups of milk. And if this is 2 and this is 2 and this is 2, our new ratio becomes 4 to 6. Now we're asked to write a ratio of the number of cups of milk Jasmine drank to the number of cups of milk Brenda drank. Well, as you remember, our former ratio was 4 to 6. And so there's our ratio. Now the next question says, are the ratios you determined equivalent? Explain why or why not. Well, the ratios we came up with were, the first one was 2 to 3. And the second one we came up with was 4, that's not a colon, to 6. So that being the case, to determine whether or not these are equal, we're going to need to do our handy dandy drawing. So 2 to 4, you can get there by multiplying by 2. And 3 to 6, you can get there by multiplying also by 2. So yes, these can be the same. Now what you're supposed to do for 4E is explain using words, are the two ratios determined that we determine equivalent. So if we explain what we just drew, we would say, yes, the two ratios are equivalent because we multiplied both of the first ratio numbers by the same number, and that number was 2, and for an answer, it was the second ratio. Important words that I'm looking to see that you've written is that you must multiply both of the first ratio numbers by the same number, and for an answer, it was the second ratio. If you wrote something close to that, then you did fine. And now you're ready for a quiz.